If you are thinking of making a move to the African continent, Kenya is probably on your list. You need a comparison of which place suits you better. This is something I cannot tell you 100% because every African country has a bit of a difference to it, a bit of a different culture. It has a different feeling of life over there. It has a different focus. Let's say Kenya is more tech oriented. It's a very huge mix of West and Africa. Therefore, it really depends on what you want. But I can give you my breakdown of at least getting a visa, of cost of living, and everything else you should put into consideration when picking the right country for you to either move to or to visit to the first time to make your decision. Let's get into the visa and residency process. So for me, I moved myself personally to Kenya like 2 years ago, and when I came here I got the investor visa. It's a class G visa. I will put you down a link where you have all the different class of visas and where you can check out which visa suits you. You have a lot of options for different kinds of visas. So there's one for retirement, there's one for business, there's one for work, there's one for employment, there's one for NGOs. So it really depends how you come into Kenya and what your true purpose is of living here and like what you want to do. And of course, with these different visas, there's also different requirements. So let's say with the visa class G that I came with, you will see it also, if you click the link down below, you will see that you need a minimum capital investment of 100,000 US dollars on your bank account. And this is something they want to see when approving your visa in the process as well. So therefore, it's one of the harder options, but there's also different ways. If you don't want to bind so much capital here, you can also go different routes and just employ yourself in your own company. If you don't want to start a business and you're older than 35, you could go with the retirement visa. So it really depends on what you are looking for when entering Kenya. Price wise, it's also a huge variation of different factors. I noticed like the student visas are much cheaper than visas for businesses. So for instance, for me, obtaining the business visa now for 1 year, the official fee is 1,800 US dollars. But I think now with the costs of facilitation and things that come left and right, I will end up at a very close number to like 3,500 to 4,000 US dollars. So it's quite expensive to obtain an investor's visa to stay here for a single year. And I remember, just to give you also like a very honest opinion, when I came here 2 years ago, it was half of the price. So they're raising the prices at this moment, but cannot tell you. That's why I put the link down below where you can check out what the current prices and the current regulations and requirements are for the visa that make the most sense for yourself. It's also possible to gain a permanent residency, but this you will get after 7 years of staying here in Kenya on a official work visa or like permit at one of those classes you will find if you click down below on the link. Next one I think is quite important for you to make a decision is the cost of living. If we speak about cost of living, of course it always is a huge variation depending on the factors, depending on what kind of lifestyle you live, depending if you're coming alone, you're coming with your family, you're coming with, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 children, whatever your family and lifestyle looks like. Let me just give you a breakdown of myself, just an approximate one. I would say right now I live on approximately 1,500 US dollars a month, and this is with going out to eat, with like paying my rent, but I'm also having a shared apartment here with a couple of with 2 roommates, and we having a big 5-bedroom apartment here in a good area, but we were also lucky with the price. So let's say for me, I would say to feed you and maybe a partner, you would go in with approximately 2,000 US dollars, depending on your lifestyle. You can spend up to 5,000. It really depends on the area where you want to live. It depends if you want to get a more luxurious apartment. Right over there are some more luxurious apartments, very modern, new buildings. And I think just rent for 2-bedroom there is already around like 2,800 US dollars or something like this, very close to the number. So it really depends what you want. But I would say, of course, in general, overall, it's definitely cheaper than like life in the States or life in Europe. Eating food is cheaper, you get more quality for it. And like getting an Uber or Bolt ride or something like this can be as cheap as like $1 up to $10, $15, depending how far you're going. But if you go for let's say 50, if you have to pay $15 for a Bolt or Uber ride, you need to go very far, and I think drive minimum an hour to pay this much. And let's say just for me to compare it with like the price I used to pay in Germany is like when you just enter the cab and sit inside the cab, you're already like at the starting price of €5 or $6 or something. So it's much cheaper, much more affordable, and easy to get around. Also, if you don't have a car and you just want to look around in the very first place in the beginning. Another factor I think is like groceries. So groceries are also cheaper, but if you get imported products, they can be also more expensive. So now let's say imagine a bunch of spinach here is like 30 shillings or something, 25 shillings. In US dollar cents, it might be like 15 cents or 20 cents or something like this. So it's quite cheap to get like fresh local goods, but it would be more expensive if you're looking for like cheese, if you're looking for products that are not manufactured locally. So there are local markets. Let's say also banana, I can buy a banana for 7 cents. I can buy a mango for like 10 to 12, 15 cents maybe. So like the very fresh locally grown foods and locally processed foods are much cheaper than the imported ones. And I think groceries I could spend on approximately for me 150 to 250 US dollars depending what I spend the money on. The same applies for eating out, and you can go out and eat for like let's say $1 on a very local food street food vendor, what I also do every now and then because I like the food. But you can also go in like a regular place like that you are used to from Europe. You can eat out at like $10, $15, but also can go all the way up luxurious for like 50, 60 US dollars, or maybe even above this if you're really looking to spend this much money. So it really depends on you, what kind of person you are, if you want to go out, if you want to eat at fancy places all the time. But let's say for me, living normal, not looking too much at what I spend the money on, just living a casual life, enjoying the quality time at home and doing activities, I spend around like 1500 US dollars just on myself, just to give you an idea of it. What also adds into this cost of living part, I think, is the areas you can reside in. Areas define the prices of your apartment as well. As I mentioned earlier, you have apartments that can cost you like $300, maybe even $50 if you really live outside of Nairobi. Can be also go all the way up to 3, 5, 10K a month what you pay for an apartment here. So really, I would say just some areas to take in consideration when you come in here for the first time or thinking of moving here would be good for you as a starting point is either Westland, Kilimani, Levington, and maybe also like Spring Valleys, where yeah, Spring Valley is also a nice neighborhood, a bit more expensive. And then you have more expensive areas like Runda, what is a little bit more in the north of the city, above the city centers. And you have Karen, that's all the way in the south of the city, but what is the most expensive area to stay in. And again, this really depends on what your lifestyle looks like, on you want from living here in Nairobi, what you want from living here in the city. If you have a family, if your kids need to go to school, if you're alone and you want to experience, you want to go out. But just these areas you can keep in mind just for yourself to have an understanding of the city, because those like Westland, Kilimani, Kileleshwa, yeah, and Levington area, they are very central in the city and give you like a good connection to go anywhere you need to go to. Let me go into the quality of life section. So personally for me, the weather is great, the weather is perfect. The weather right now, we're having summertime in January, February, December, and it's the perfect weather. It's not too hot that you're sweating. The sky is clear blue. There's almost no rain, so it's very nice. And I would say the weather is most of the year is very consistent, because you're also staying here in Kenya, in Nairobi specifically, on I think an altitude of like 1800 meters or something, if I'm not wrong, or like something above this even. So even if it's summertime, you have always a fresh breath of air that doesn't make it feel like it's too hot over here. Let's say if you going all year long, you have an all year long the same weather conditions, it feels very beautiful, because you can always go out in a shirt. Even maybe sometimes if it's winter time, the coldest I saw is maybe 15, 16 degrees of Celsius in the very late evenings and very early mornings in the deepest winter times here. So I think over the course of the day, it's always a very straightforward and like similar weather throughout the entire year, and this makes this place very livable here in Nairobi. At least the coast will be much hotter for you. Places like Mombasa, Diani, Malindi, just the whole coastline will be in the summertime now. Way too hot for me because you're sweating, it's very humid. But for me, it's the most experience here is in Nairobi. But I've been traveling around the whole country, so I have to say Nairobi has the ideal weather for you to stay here all year long. And otherwise, I think what also is very important for you if you're moving here to Kenya, what maybe not every single country in Africa is offering you, is that English is widely spoken by every single person here. Even if Swahili is is also like a national language here, English is the same, and everybody, at least in terms of doing business, in terms of going to school in Nairobi, living a day-to-day life in Nairobi, and even outside of Nairobi in the coastal cities, people speak English. So you don't need to worry too much about it. It's nice if you also speak the local language like Swahili. I even also try to adapt a bit and I speak some of it, but I think you can even learn it on the go when you come here, when you arrive here. So there's no need for you to worry about it, because I know there are some other French-speaking countries like Cote d'Ivoire, like Mali, like Niger, and if you don't speak French, I think it might be quite tough for you to get around and live the life you want to live. And this is, I think, one of the factors that makes it quite easy for you to adapt. And this is one of the factors why many expats and foreigners are already living here in Nairobi and in Kenya in general. We have a huge foreigners community here. There's a lot of expats coming from all over the world. Either they're working for the UM, they're doing business here, they're coming from all over. But here's a quite mixed bunch of people. So you won't be the only one who's gonna relocate to an African country if you pick Kenya as your home destination. Bad points here, I would say the traffic is very, very heavy, especially in like the rush hour times. So in rush hour times you can get stuck and it's very, very much annoying, and it's just like a waste of time every now and then. So if you go in the early morning times from 8 to maybe 9 or 10, it's very congested, it's very busy, and the same again from like 3:30 or 4 p.m. to 6 or 7. It's very, very much annoying to move around in these times, and I would say this is very, very a big negative point for me. I don't leave the house at these times if I don't have to. And another thing is that sometimes, just that you are aware, it's not that it happens on a frequent basis, but it can happen that the electricity cuts every now and then. And in this case, if you don't have a landlord or you don't live in an apartment where you have a generator, it can be a bit annoying if you need to work, if you need to get something done, if you have responsibilities you need to follow, or just in general, if it's an inconvenience for you, you need to get used to that it happens every now and then. There was times it happens more often, and especially in the rainy seasons it will happen more often because the network of electricity will break down a couple of times due to the heavy rains. Just something for you to be aware of, I would say. So the next one, how is the business and networking environment here in Nairobi? Or in Kenya in general? I would say there's definitely a lot of opportunities. It depends on what sector you're coming from. For me, I came from the tech sector, from marketing, from business consulting sector. So I had the chance to look into many different businesses over the time here in Nairobi and in general all over the world. What helped me to understand what kind of things are possible here. And I think it's a country where its economy is growing quite quickly, and but you still have a lot of opportunities. It's still like the Wild West somehow, where you see like the city like Nairobi is growing very, very quickly, and the projections, if you look at the numbers for African countries, they're supposed to double in population in the next 25 years. So you will see the influx of the city that will grow more outside of the current city center to hold up and provide space for all of these people. And Nairobi and Kenya in general is just very far advanced in terms of the tech. They were the first country to invent or like to use a mobile money solution like M-Pesa, which you will get to know. It's basically just like an mobile money solution and like bank account for your phone that you can use and make transactions all over the country and even abroad quite easily. And I would say Kenya is also it's just a big hub for tourists as well. It's the destination for safari. So I think also agriculture. Kenya has so much to offer. You can do so many different kinds of businesses, and you have the right spaces because people are here from all over the world, either doing business, living here, coming here for various reasons. So I think it's a very, very amazing place for you to build connections and from here to start your business and make it grow through the African continent. Because also what I realized over the last 2 years is that people oftentimes have their location, they have their base here, but now from here this is just the place where they operate from, but actually they have operations all over the world. If it's in Dubai, if it's in other African countries, if it's in East Africa, whatever it is, they do business from Nairobi because here is a great connection you have. The next thing I think is quite important is like travel connectivity and the infrastructure you have here. So I need to say Nairobi, or like Kenya in general, is one of the really good locations you can settle in terms of like being connected to the world. So let's say for me, when I need to fly to Europe, there's direct flights from Nairobi to Amsterdam, there's direct flights to Paris, there's direct flights to New York, there's direct flights to a lot of countries, and like Kenya offers a very good connection with Kenya Airways and other airlines that are flying in and out of Kenya. Make it quite easy and quite affordable for you to fly around. Just to give you an idea, like when I flew to Germany last time, it was a return flight. I think I paid around like 600 euros for the return flight, and I think it's quite fair for the distance. The only problem you will have here, but this is a problem you will have in the whole African continent, is flights within the African continent. So if I need to go from here, from Nairobi to, let's say, Kampala, Uganda, for instance, I pay around like $450, compared for me to go in like 8 hours, 10 hours, I pay just 200 or $100 more. I think it's a huge difference because Kampala is just an hour away. And the same when I have to go to Ethiopia, I pay around like 400 euros. If I have to go to Zanzibar, Tanzania, I pay also 400 euros. So it's quite, let's say, more expensive, but this is something not a downside for Kenya. It's just a thing you should be aware of when you're here around. I mean, it's still quite okay. We can still afford it, but something we should be aware of. And otherwise, also domestic flights are widely available. Kenya has a lot of airports within the country. So you can go from Nairobi to Mombasa to different kinds of coastal airports, or like even on the other side to the north, you want to do a safari, you can fly there too. So the connectivity in terms of flights are great. Infrastructure in terms of roads is also being built out. You can drive to Tanzanian cities, what's the neighboring country here. You can drive all the way to the coast, you can drive to the north. They have like built out streets and roads, sometimes not the best, but it works perfectly fine if you want to drive and you want an adventure and you like road trips and you have to go somewhere. Especially the capital Nairobi is very built out well, and like they keep investing into the infrastructure, and it's going to keep developing. And just to give you another example, they just built a couple of years, they built a railway as well, from all the way from Mombasa, from the port city to Nairobi, that also can be taken by you, and what is a lot quicker than for you to take the car. You know that the car takes around like 10, 11 hours, 9 hours, and the train will just take you 5.5 to 6 hours to arrive at the coast. So it's pretty nice and amazing, and it's a much more relaxed experience for you than just taking the car by yourself or driving or taking the matatus, the buses here that are available as well. So I hope I gave you enough insights for you to make a decision if Kenya is worth visiting for you or not. I wouldn't base my decision to move to a country purely on my opinion, because I see things differently. I came here at a very young age. I am here to do business. I'm not here to maybe retire. I'm not here to, I don't know, enjoy life purely. But it's also part of the reason, of course, but I'm also here to do business, to learn, to grow, to explore everything here and to have a big impact. So it really depends on what you want for your life. But I think it can help you to see things here from at least a perspective of someone who went this way. Let's say, I said, just to put it all together again, you have amazing weather here, you have a beautiful nature access here, you have endless waterfalls. Kenya is known for safaris, you have business opportunities, you have people who are building their businesses all over the world from Kenya, or like having a base here in Kenya. You have basically everything you need. You're not lacking anything if you're staying here in Kenya. Pharmacies, shopping malls, you can spend your money, you can make your money, everything is here. But to sustain yourself here, you also need a certain amount of money, especially if you come with kids. Schools are not very cheap, and you need to consider this also into consideration. So if you're coming, my recommendation purely for you is come visit the first time. If this sounds interesting to you and you like the pictures you've been seeing and the things you've been hearing, then come and visit and make your decision based off your own gut feeling and your own experiences and your own perspective and your own views. I appreciate you, and I see you in the next video.